Interview is John Walker, the head coach of Nebraska. And Coach, this is a pretty cool story. I mean, forget about winning the Big Ten. You guys, for all the success you've had historically, and we'll get into that, in your long tenure at Nebraska, it had not been a good last 5 years or so for you guys. Hadn't had a winning record in the conference. So what do you point to as kind of the key to this turnaround?
Well, I think it started last year, Dave. We ended up started the non-conference season a little slow, but by the end of the conference season, we finished in fourth. We went to the semifinals. We lost to Michigan State 2-1 in the semifinals, and we're probably like one of the last one or two teams that didn't make the NCAA tournament. So I think a lot of the development part came last year, and then we returned virtually every player on the team. So I think development continuity is important. And then so it's a group that's kind of grown up together. And they developed a strong culture. You saw the seeds of that last year, and then you're starting to see, kind of the results of that growth this year.
Have you changed anything tactically on top of returning personnel and building off of last year?
I think we're a bit more aggressive with pressing, creating goal scoring chances, and I think statistically, that bears fruit. But nothing outrageous or major. We definitely spent a lot of time on pressing and transitional play in this off season. A lot of really hard practices, what we call ball in play scrimmages, where it's just kind of relentless action and there's no breaks, and that mentality really helps in the transitional component of the game.
I have to ask you about Eleanor Dale. She is leading the nation in scoring. And if people have been paying attention to Big Ten women's soccer, they know that she is a good player. She's on England's under-23 national team, so she gets some international play as well. But I guess I'm just interested in, how does someone go from a 7-goal scorer, who's a really good player in the league, to a 23-goal scorer who is one of the most feared players in the country?
Yeah, I think the first thing is technical development. She's put in a lot of work into just finishing techniques, heading, volleying, finishing from the ground, first-time finishes, breakaway finishes, finishing after a dribble. I think she has a real specialist approach to that. A lot of forwards should have that approach. Like if you're a forward, you should score goals. And so she puts that expectation on herself. And then I think over the last year, spent a lot of time on the actual technical component. And last year, she had little small injuries throughout the season. And then the other thing last fall is she had a lot of really good chances that the keeper made a great save on. It hit the post. It was 6 inches wide. And so she had a good season last fall. And if the breaks had maybe gone her way a little bit, you might have seen that goal total double. And so for her to make the jump, it is huge. There's no question about it. And whatever. But I guess I've always had the belief she had that in her. And then once you get going, there's a confidence component to it as well, and I think Eleanor would tell you that. And so she's in a good place, and it's been in a good place all season.
This team is really playing its best soccer right now. I mean, you're in the middle of a 6-game win streak. It's the longest for your program in a decade. We talk about building off of last year and that you felt like you had a chance to be pretty good. But why do you think it's particularly clicked here down the stretch?
I think continuity, confidence are some of the biggest things. I mean, I give so much credit to the players. They've created kind of a winning culture, a culture where they normalize enthusiasm, and then I think you get those minutes on the field together. They've grown up together. They've taken some hard knocks together. But they have a real sense of unity amongst them, and then I think that continuity on the tactical side of handling difficult moments in games. As you know, soccer, especially in a conference strong as the Big Ten, often comes down to 1 or 2 plays in a 90-minute game. And I think they've been in those situations now over the last couple of years that they handled them pretty well. And then, of course, the intangible in all of it is confidence. As they have put some wins together, scored a lot of goals. Obviously, we're one of the top scoring teams in the country, and so I think they have confidence as well. But with humility, I think the humility comes from the beginning of last year or 2021, where some of them were younger players, and we didn't win those games. And so they have a nice feel to them in that they're humble, but they're growing in confidence as they develop together. So I think it's a really healthy group.
Coach, I want to get into your backstory a little bit because it's kind of amazing. You're the only coach in the history of this program. It's been nearly 30 years, for those who don't know, that you've been in Lincoln. You're from Scotland originally. Your dad was a coach in Canada. You played in college for him. And I was reading that you applied for the Nebraska job literally on the final day that applications were open. Have you thought at all about kind of what moved you to apply on that day and how dramatically it's changed the course of your life?
Yeah, I mean, the story is I was the high performance director at the training center in Ontario, Provincial National Training Center in Ontario, and we used to get a lot of U.S. college coaches come up to look at our players, and I became friendly with Brett Simon, who was the men's assistant at the time at Creighton. And Brett mentioned to me on one of his visits, Nebraska was starting up a program in the athletic department of Nebraska in 1994. There wasn't anyone with soccer background, so they reached out to Brett over at Creighton. And so we just talked a little bit, and he said, I should really, if you're interested, I'm going to put your name forward. And actually at the time, my wife and I, we had 1-year-old twins. I was away on a coaching course in California, and I hadn't really thought about, when we came back, there was several messages on our voicemail. Back in the day, didn't have mobile phones, of course. Right. So on our old voice recording mail thing from Al Papik, who at the time was a senior associate AD at Nebraska, just saying, "Hey, look, we'd like to talk to you." And so and he said, "You got to get your resume in here." I remember I had to fax in the resume again back in the day. And then that was it. I went down to visit, and we just decided we had 1-year-old twins at the time, and thought, what a great opportunity. The place had a real high performance feel to it. Looked like a great community to raise a family, and so that's how I ended up down here. And it really is a wonderful school, athletic department, and a community, and so that's why I'm still here 30 years later.
That's amazing, and as I said, you've had some great success there. You're playing Ohio State in the opening round of the Big Ten tourney. You beat them back in September. Give us a little scouting report on the Buckeyes and what we should expect in that opener.
Yeah, they're a terrific team. They're a real attack-oriented team as well. I think stylistically, a little bit different, but they're really well organized, well coached, and they have some super explosive players, also experienced players, and we know on any given day they can beat anyone in the country. And so I think it's going to be an exciting matchup. There's probably going to be goal chances in it for both teams, and I think hopefully both teams are playing in the NCAA tournament also.
Yeah, John, it seems very likely that your team is going to make the NCAA tournament this year. You haven't been there since 2016. I mentioned you've been there a ton of times in your time at Nebraska. Yeah. It just has been a little while. What's it going to be like to hear your name called? And I know you don't want to get too far ahead, but to kind of realize that, hey, we're back to where we've been historically.
Yeah, it'll be exciting. Like I said, I'm more excited for the players. David, it's a really special group of players, and I know that just sounds like coach talk, but they are so hardworking and energetic and team-oriented, and they've really, just bought into development philosophy in the program, have a real identity for how they play, and so they're really a breath of fresh air and invigorating for an old guy like me to come and coach every single day. And on last Sunday, winning a share of the Big Ten title was a special moment for them, because a couple of years ago, I think we started the first 7 games of the conference and we didn't win. We had a few ties, and then we won the last 3. But so now to see them, really escalate in their success with the conference regular season, and have an opportunity in the tournament now, and then hopefully in the NCAA tournament, I'll just be really happy for them, and I'm really proud of them.
Well, really a neat story. Fun to visit with you, John. Congratulations on the success, on hoisting a trophy, and we'll see what these next few weeks hold for the Huskers. Thanks a lot, Coach.
Okay, thanks so much, Dave. Nice talking to you.